Cool. So we are here today to announce the launch of our GridPad 16. So this is a really, really exciting time for us, especially in hardware. Hardware things tend to take years rather than months to develop and launch. So this has been or felt like a long time coming for us. The GridPad 16 is the newest addition to our Windows GridPad range. So the 16 kind of stands for 16-inch. So this joins the GridPad 13, which is the slightly smaller device. For those of you who are familiar with the GridPad 13, you will see a lot of the same features and a lot of the same kind of aesthetic. So the GridPad 16 is very, very similar, but the main distinction is that it's larger. But we have a lot, and we've carried over a lot of our kind of big favorite features from the GridPad 13. So that's things like the smart buttons, which are along the bottom of the device. These are programmable. We also have things like our second screen, which we'll show in more detail later. So our partner window. We have put a lot of time and effort and energy into designing our audio and our speakers and making sure they're the best quality that they can be, as well as including things like environmental control in this device. On this screen, you will be able to see that on the left, our GridPad 16 has kind of a module underneath. This is our eye gaze module. So we have different types of cameras or cameras from different companies that can fit into that enclosure. So if the main access method for the GridPad 16 for a customer or for a customer is through eyes, through eye gaze, this is a really easy way to kind of plug and play and plug in and try different cameras. Okay, we're going to try something slightly different this webinar, technology allowing. And I actually have a GridPad 16 here. So I'm going to do a bit of a live demo to talk through some of the hardware features. I don't know if I can spotlight myself, or I don't know if Hannah, maybe you can try and spotlight me to make me bigger.
Yes, you are. There you go, all done.
Okay, so this is the big reveal, GridPad 16. I am 5'9", so I have a fairly average sized head. So you can use that for scale. But just wanted to point out a few of our key hardware features. So you can see the screen is super bright, super big. It's got really, really high resolution. So great for people who need high contrast, high resolution. The smart buttons that I was talking about earlier are along the bottom, and these smart buttons are programmable. So what that means is you can put a different action behind these smart buttons. Apart from the two on the right, which are volume, so volume up and down, and these are touch, and I should say also eye gaze accessible, so can be controlled through the eyes. And these can be programmed to, for example, bring up a calibration, to bring up a positioning guide. The Smartbox logo is actually a button as well. And often people will program that to take you back to a Grid Explorer. So these programmable buttons basically just help with the navigation of the device, especially if kind of a key access method is through eye gaze. The module on the bottom is an eye gaze module, and this is really easy to kind of pull on and off if you are going to be switching things in and out. So often different cameras work better for different people, and that can depend on eyes, on location, using indoors, outdoors, whether people have vision correction or not. But if you want something a bit more permanent, we have the screws on the back, which are really easy. Let me just put that down, to screw in, and that means that it's really secure in there as well, if you don't need to be changing different eye gaze modules in and out. At the moment, we are compatible, or we use Smart Eye, so Lumen Eye camera and the Vida camera in here. But we have also made different considerations for different access methods. So at the top, and we've got some really nice pictures on the slides that we'll show in a sec, there is also a module to add a head mouse, a head tracker. Okay, let me put that back on. So if I twist the device around, I also just want to point out, so this is quite a well-loved device, sorry, lots of stickers on here. It's not a brand new one. We have our partner window, our second screen, and this is, again, really high resolution. It works with text, it works with symbols, images, it's full color, and it's 6.5 inch, so a big partner window, which just helps with that face-to-face communication. Let me see actually if I can demo a little Smoji on the back of here. Okay, I accidentally closed grid. I'll do that in a sec. And then a couple of last things to point out. So the GridPad 16, because it's a bigger device, it is heavier. It comes in at 3.5 kilograms without the eye gaze module and 4.1 with eye gaze. So typically we would expect this device to be mounted, and we have different mounting plates for all the main mounting systems. An example of where we kind of listened to customer feedback is we had a couple of user testers testing the GridPad 16, and they were worried about kind of the rattling sometimes that our GridPad 16 was making when it was on mounting systems. That has all been resolved. So we changed the mounting to make it really, really secure. And then the last thing to point out is just the ports. So we have charging ports on the side. We've got switch ports. We've got USB ports. So any accessories that are needed, we've got different types of USB. So USB-A, USB-C. 2 switch ports with LEDs. So the LEDs indicate that the switches are connected and working properly, as well as a charging port. And again, we have LEDs for charging. So it will glow green if the device is fully charged. Again, it's just a good indicator of battery status, and orange if the battery is low. Big old power button on the back, which is there. The device also comes with a remote power button. So for those who may struggle turning the device on and off from the button on the back of the device, we do have this remote power button as well. So that can be really helpful for our users. And 2 additional switch ports. Not sure if you can see that on the remote power button if additional switch ports are needed. Just one last thing before we go back to the slides. I wanted to show you some the second screen in use with my favorite emoji, Smoji. Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks, Hannah. Let's go back onto the slides. Oh, I think there was one just
we skipped
before this.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was just the slide to help me remember all of the things that I wanted to say in that demo. So there may be some repetition, apologies. But our GridPad 16 has all of the features, powerful features of GridPad. So we have an 11th gen Intel processor. Sorry, this is slightly technical, but loads of storage. So basically what that means is GridPad 16 is a powerhouse of performance. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, which is best in market. We have a super bright display, and this display is also daylight bright, which makes it a really good device if it's being used indoors, but also outdoors. It's incorporated Gaywa infrared and also EasyWave and Z-Wave radio frequency. So for any environmental control, again, the GridPad 16 is a great device for that. We've drop tested it, so it has a really strong aluminium casing, which is super robust, drop tested to 1 meter, and it's also IP54 rated. So that means it is dust and waterproof resistant. So again, if it's being used outside, it can withstand the elements. We have Lumini and Vida eye tracking technology in the kind of easy plug and play enclosure at the bottom that is very has been designed with the GridPad 16 in mind. We've got the 6.5 inch daylight second screen, which I've just demoed this emoji on. Smart buttons along the bottom, so eye gaze and touch accessible. A nice little personalizing feature about those is they can actually, the LEDs, so the backlit LEDs on the smart buttons can be configured to different colors. We've got a choice of 16 colors. So that's a fun little way to personalize. And one of the most important things is we haven't compromised on battery. So the battery life is 13 hours. This goes down to 8 hours if it's being used with eye gaze, just because the eye gaze cameras can be quite power hungry. But we haven't compromised on the battery. And although we have a bigger, brighter screen, the technology that's gone into it means that when the screen isn't in use, it goes into this low power state, which preserves battery. Okay, that's all the technical stuff, I think. So on to Micah for some more interesting slides.
No, all details are interesting. And I think all in total, this webinar is quite repetitive. So we will come back to the same features, but from different perspectives, and illustrate everything and give life to the features with our user stories that we will come to later on. So we have the GridPad 16 with more space and more possibilities. The larger screen offers significant benefits for many users, providing more space to work, create, and enjoy content. With a bigger display, you can easily view multiple programs side by side, making multitasking more efficient, whether you're working on documents, presenting at meetings, or editing videos. So it's a perfect device for everybody who is studying, who's going to school and has to do multitasking work on the screen, for anyone who enjoys multimedia and social media stuff with the better and bigger screen. It's ever so enhancing for entertainment, and it offers a more immersive experience for watching films or TV shows. Yes, the next slide, please. And this is what I mean, repetitive. So enjoying social media is ever more immersive with the new GridPad 16. And here you can see the screen of one of our beta testers, one of the users who helped us a lot to develop and to improve the GridPad 16. We will come to him in with more details later, but what you can see here is that he's using his Join in Pro app, the app that includes a lot of social media and entertainment stuff into the grid. And he really enjoys the better screen for using these programs on the GridPad 16.
Yeah, that was a really nice image that just showed the head mouse, the head tracker on the top. And that's all nicely incorporated wireless as well. Okay, just to hammer home the largest, brightest display, we yeah, this is slightly repetitive, isn't it?
It's worthwhile to talk about it. Don't miss any detail.
So we have double the resolution in this screen for the same battery life, which is a really impressive feat from the hardware team. It's daylight bright, so great for use outdoors, and our customers can be confident doing so because of the IP rating. The IP54 rating, it's splash and dust resistant. And the nice thing about that is it includes the whole system. So the IP rating isn't just for the screen. It's also covered the whole system if you have a head mouse attached, but also if you have the eye gaze module attached. The whole thing is IP54 rated, so the whole thing is water and dust resistant. We've got some more technical detail here. So the 16-inch WQXGA, basically this is a resolution thing. So it stands for Wide Quad Extended Graphics Array. It refers to the pixelation, so the high pixelation of the screen, which delivers improved color. Also means that the contrast is really good for those who might have more visual impairment. And it makes it ideal for tasks like media consumption, gaming, professional creative work, that kind of thing. The sRGB stands for standard red, green, blue. And again, this is kind of the contrast, coloration of the screen. So our screen can display all the colors within that space, and that's the standard range of colors for most websites, photos, videos. So again, this device is useful for any sort of design work, photo editing, and visual accessibility.
Okay, next slide. The improved visibility is one of the biggest issues we had in mind when we worked on the GridPad 16, and it's especially, so in general, it's beneficial for all users, but it's especially beneficial for the individuals with visual impairments, such as cortical visual impairment, the CVI. The larger screen can really make a difference, and the brighter screen can make a difference as well. So the colors are perfect, brightness is perfect, and this makes it easier to access for people who has disabilities in vision and visual impairments. And we already mentioned before, and we will come to the more interesting, more lively stuff very soon. Please hang on with us. We will talk about the users, and we had them in mind when we developed this device. We always have them in mind. So we thought about all these things. Which feature must be better to include these persons and these persons? And we really thought about the persons, the users with visual impairments. And we had all 5 core principles of AAC in mind to include the biggest possible number of people. So we thought about the multi-model communication with a partner window, one example. We want to be keen on personalization and individualization. We are working to give our users the opportunity for autonomy and participation. So to access the device with whatever option that is possible for us. So you can put the buttons into the remote control, for example. And we are thinking about modeling and consistency and access and usability, of course, as well. So next slide.
Oh, Hannah, I think you might have clicked off the slide by accident. Yeah.
Was a nice picture as well. Okay. I'm not really sure. Do we collect them, Hannah? I didn't fully get you.
I think just before we start talking about the users we've tested with, it would be really nice to hear from our audience if there's anything in particular that you think this larger screen, how would it benefit your users that you're working with? Or maybe you are a grid user, how would this larger screen help you? So feel free to put any ideas into the chat and we'll start talking about the users we've been working with.
Yes, sorry, I didn't get you fully. So please share your thoughts, your ideas, and the user stories you have in mind with us. We really appreciate your thoughts on this. And now, ta-da, we will come to the user stories. Richard, this is one of our beta tester, one of the persons who helped us to develop and to improve this device. This is Richard. And as we can see again, Rebecca already mentioned before, he is using his device with a head mouse, and we have the head mouse quite nice mounted with the adapter on top, no cables, no additional wires necessary, nice and smooth attached to the device. And we see the powerful partner window here as well. So Richard is asking the first question, how are you? And I think we can see in his face that he's really enthusiastic about doing this. So we come to the next slide, please. So Richard is 44 years old and he lives in a village in the UK, and he was a perfect tester and helper to develop for us because he's a very active and communicative person. He enjoys going out most days with his personal assistant. He's visiting pubs, cafes, museums, and exhibitions, and meeting new people. So he is really a person who benefits from the battery, who benefits from all these options for outdoor use and for multimodal communication. So the perfect person to do the development and to support us with. And as we will see later as well, he's very much into music and photography. So this is a big part of his life, and he has access via the GridPad 16. So the next slide. I want to quote Richard. My GridPad is extremely important to me, and I use it for about 12 hours a day. And we had, in the last presentation we had the question, why 12 hours? Because of the head mouse. It's not that power hungry as the eye gaze. So with the head mouse, you can use the device for 12 hours. I mainly use it for communication, but also to control things in my home like Alexa, audio, TV, and lighting. I also use it for online shopping, social media, and staying in touch with friends, family, and my PAs. So somebody who's really benefiting from the more immersive experience. So the next slide. Yes.
So this is a picture of Richard using his GridPad 16 for photography. Photography is something that Richard is really passionate about. And you can see here the image is slightly cut off, but on the right he has his Canon camera, which is hooked up to the GridPad through one of the USB ports, and he uses a software called Smart Shooter software. And what that enables him to do is basically control the camera position, control when the camera is taking an image, and adjust his camera settings. And all of that he's able to do using his head tracker. So really requiring kind of minimal physical assistance. And that gives him the freedom to take the photographs that he wants to photograph. Myself and Micah were trying to identify the characters in this picture, and we needed to recruit the help of Micah's son. But we have it on firm authority that they are Star Wars characters.
Okay.
And yeah, just a nice image of Richard again using his head tracker, his head mouse. And here we can see the benefit of the second screen. So the second screen can display text, but it can also display imagery if someone is using more symbol-based communication, which is great. So yeah, kind of Richard here putting the features of the GridPad 16 through some thorough user testing, which has been great to see.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the big partner window being able to display symbols as well as text is so helpful when you're in a crowded, noisy environment, and you can make sure that the person you're addressing with your message is really getting it. And I think Rebecca and we loved this picture as well because you can see it in his face. He's so happy and he's saying, I loved today so much. So nice. Okay, next slide. Yes. I want to quote him again. So he says, GridPad 16 is very responsive and the head pointer is smooth and precise. I also like the way the head pointer is fitted to the device with no visible wires. So he immediately noticed the improvements in responsiveness with the head pointer feeling smoother and more precise. The screen is easier on his eyes compared to the GridPad 15, and the battery life and speaker quality have been standout features. Another aspect he appreciates a lot is the sleek and modern design, particularly the way the head pointer is integrated with no visible wires. The built-in camera has also been a great addition, offering high-quality images with easy-to-use controls. Okay, next slide.
Great. One of the other people that we tested with was Millie. So Millie is 24 years old. She has been using eye gaze for a long time. She's been using eye gaze since she was 9, so super experienced. And she was testing the GridPad 16 for us with the Vida camera. And Millie kind of had observed other people around her, caregivers, parents, editing her content. But more recently, she's taken control of this herself, which has been great. So she uses computer control and also the control that the Vida camera gives her to edit her own grid sets. And like most of us, she enjoys using her phone. So yeah, kind of browsing the web, using WhatsApp, using TikTok, all the accessible apps, she's found really beneficial.
And one detail, if I can mention this one quickly, is she shared some of her feedback via grid sets with us, which was very lovely to see and to be part of.
But we actually have a video of Millie, which, yeah, it's better to, well, what better way to hear from Millie and her experience than through her own words.
Hello. Hello. Hi, I am Millie and I have been trying the new computer.
I reached out to her a few months ago and said, Millie, would you like to take part in a project with us? She's been trialling it now for about 6 weeks or so.
I like the way the new GridPad looks. It is square and it looks pretty good.
Since she's been at residential college, she can open a door, she uses it to control a TV. It's conversation, it's education, it's communication, everything.
You okay?
Well, I'm absolutely fabulous, Mills.
I always had support with my grids in addition to school. This was very helpful for me because I did the work independently.
She's in a busy college environment. She's at times needing to use not just her voice, but also her second screen. And I think that large, bright second screen is something that's going to be powerful for her too.
I love the size and the brightness of this device.
So it means that she can have the information she needs, a means to answer it and a means to record it all on one page. So the bigger the screen, the better.
She's already telling us how much faster it is and what an improvement that is, so she's able to get things done more efficiently and more quickly.
The camera seems to work very well with her eyes, so it eases that load on a working memory of access.
I use social media with my computer and I use Facebook and WhatsApp.
She's using both communication grids and computer access grids, and sometimes she's trying to run several things at once, so the room to do that.
So the journey to literacy is really important, and it's just once you're literate, you can type whatever you want. I asked Millie what time she had her device on from, and it was 7:45 a.m. and she will quite often have it on until 10 or 11 at night. It goes everywhere with her. She's an AAC user 24 hours a day. It reduces your reliance on other people.
Watching the journey that Millie has taken from a young girl to the young woman that she is today, she couldn't have done that without the support that she's had around her. The implementation support has been second to none.
At the moment she's doing dance and she's doing some choreography. She has a grid set, which is the Simpson board on a grid set, so that she can direct the other students in her class. And going forwards, it's just a case of whatever she needs, I'm sure she'll ask for.
Independence is very important to me because I can do what I want to do independently.
Thank you. Oops. Where are the slides?
Sorry, I've just got to exit this. Sorry, it just seems to be a little bit stuck on that video. Okay, got it. Just a moment.
Okay. So we already heard about it in the video, and we saw her, Millie using the text communication. She did her journey to literacy with Grid. So she started using symbol-based AAC in Grid, and with the support of her team and the phonics program designed for AAC users, she developed her literacy skills and now uses Fast Talker, which obviously gives her a very much broader, wider, and more precise communication. So she uses her computer control to make her own edits to grid sets and enjoys using her phone, browsing the web, and managing her environment independently. And you can see a lot of the new and improved features of the GridPad 16 that are benefiting for her life. So it's perfect to take it out. It's weatherproof. You can see perfectly on the screen, even if the sun shines. You can have all this space for multitask. This is perfect for her using social media as well as her college work. So a lot of the features we already highlighted, you find again in Millie's story, improving her everyday life and her communication. And I think we can go to the next slide.
Yep, this is just a direct quote from Millie. She says, "I love the brightness of the device, used it outside and it worked perfectly." So that was one of Millie's favorite features. And it also offers her the option to view multiple things at once. So just going back to what kind of was said in the video, viewing multiple things at once, making multitasking easier, more efficient switching between communication and college work. Yeah. And then the next slide is actually just an image of her using some software. I think this was through LookLab, which means that she can experiment with different sounds. So she's studying a music-related course at college. And yeah, music plays a role in her studies. So this is something that she's been using to experiment with sound. And she uses personalized grid sets to help choreograph things like group routines, communicate with other students. So she can work in the same way as other students on the project, and that gives her the autonomy and the independence to do so.
Yes. Perfect. So the grid software, once again, I think many of you will already know a lot, and I will repeat, and you know already, but anyway, it's worthwhile to mention again. The Grid AAC software includes a library of ready-made resources that you can choose from, with content for literate users who need fast word prediction and pre-stored phrases, to simple users who need robust vocabularies and learning resources. And as we have seen with Millie's example, it's a perfect perfect tool to have with you on your journey from symbol to literacy. All resources for independent communication on one platform. Yes, next slide.
And finally, we're getting towards the end now. We're here to help. So at Smartbox, we have an amazing support team. They are so knowledgeable. So any kind of support that's needed, really don't hesitate to speak to our support team. We also have a whole bunch of guides, resources, setup information, manuals on our Smartbox Hub, in addition to training. So, for example, I did a training recently on the GridPad 16, which goes a little bit more into depth on hardware features and how to kind of set up and personalize a device. So that can be really helpful as well. We also offer Smart Care Protection, which is like a 3-year cover, a kind of a 3-year warranty. For more details on exactly what that covers, probably best to visit our Smartbox website. And finally, if you would like to try the GridPad 16, or for that matter, any of our other devices, there is a link at the bottom here. So thinksmartbox.com/try our products. And there's information on how you can get a trial device. I kind of refrain from saying any more information because it's different based on location and based on country. So yeah, depending on where you're based, that looks slightly different. But head out to our website to check that out if you're interested.
Yes, and if you are located outside UK, you will find all details of our partners, our trusted partners we work together with, and you find the links to the homepages, and there you will find all details to have a trial for the GridPad 16 and the other devices as well, of course. Okay. Any questions? And what about the chat?
We've had a few questions come through as you guys have been presenting, so we can cover them. But if you do have a question in the meantime, please feel free to pop it in the chat and we will come to it. So first off, we have a question about whether this device can be used with ability drive, power, chair control.
Yeah, so it can be used with ability drive. We have a camera on the back of the GridPad 16, which I've only seen ability drive in action once. But yeah, it uses the rear camera as kind of an image to see kind of behind the speech device for navigation of a wheelchair. So yeah, I've seen it being used with GridPad 13 and GridPad 16 is basically the same device, but slightly larger. So yeah.
Great.
I have tried it last year at the Rea Care and it works perfectly. So not with the 16, but with the 13. It's really amazing. I can recommend.
And then the second part to that question is about being able to switch from your ability drive back to your communication.
Yeah. So you can switch from the view where you use the camera to kind of see what's behind the device back into your communication grid set when you want to switch between communication and driving. Yeah.
And I guess you could have that on a cell within your grid set to swap between them, or you could even program a smart button to quickly do it. There are a few options there.
Yes.
Another one from Yvonne, is the head mouse from Smartbox?
Do you know this, Micah? So we sell the head mouse. We have designed the enclosure that the head mouse goes into to fit really nicely and neatly onto the device. I don't think the head mouse technology is made by us though.
No.
I think that's another company, but
Yes.
I can find that out for sure, and we can I can do a little write-up or something, and we can share that round. But I know that we do sell it.
And then we have, what mobile phone is compatible with this device? You can use a phone with Grid, and I think we support iPhone and Android. I'm going to post an article into the chat about setting up your phone with Grid, and that will give a bit more information on that question. Then, does it have AI support?
So I suppose just going back to the grid phone. So things like setting up WhatsApp, that works with, you just need a number. So how kind of the WhatsApp setup works is kind of via QR code. It's a bit like how you would set up on getting WhatsApp on a laptop. So similar sort of methodology there. And then, we also support grid phone, which is more like talking on the phone and answering calls. So that works with the GridPad 16 as well, compatible with Android and iOS.
Thanks.
Sorry, AI support. So interestingly, we are actually about to, I don't know if we can say, but spoiler alert.
We're live. We've gone live.
About to launch some new AI features. Now that's more from a software perspective, but one of our AI features is around auto correction, and it's called the Fix tool. Maybe Hannah, you can speak a bit more around what we're actually calling it now. But essentially, that was a feature that was developed to try and improve people's rate of communication. We saw that often, like a third of people's time was spent going back and either correcting grammar or correcting spelling mistakes. And we really wanted to improve people's rate of communication so they felt that they could speak quicker and more freely and kind of be more engaged in conversation. So one of the things that we developed was this AI fix tool to help autocorrect. And it's amazing how it does it, but basically changes kind of misspelled words, or if spaces or grammar has been left out, or needs kind of adjusting. We have a neat little AI feature now that it's like magic. One of the other things, what I find super interesting around like developments in AI is voice generation. And there's been loads of work recently, and we have actually collabed with a company called 11 Labs, who are looking into AI generated voices. And they can use these like tiny samples, like 30-second samples of people's voices. So rather than doing the whole voice banking thing, you send kind of, these very small snippets of samples, and this technology can create a voice for people using AI. So that's very, very cool. The emotion and like there's a word for it where like the variation in the voice is much more advanced than kind of typical traditional voice banking. And actually, one thing that I would like to say is like we have spent a lot of energy and a lot of time looking at how we can improve our speaker technology. So the GridPad 16 benefits from all of that kind of research and development that has gone into amplification. And that's with like bearing in mind that voices are going to become more and more advanced, and we need to keep up with the hardware so that the advancements of those voices can come across in our speakers. That was a very long-winded answer to AI support, but hopefully that gives a bit of a fuller picture as to what we're looking at in terms of innovative things at Smartbox that involve AI.
That's great. Thanks, Rebecca. I have just posted into the chat a blog where you can hear some of those voices, and they are truly incredible. So I'd encourage you to have a listen to those. And you can also see some videos of examples how the fix tool can really help make conversation just a bit smoother and quicker.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, fix tool and the voice stuff, 2 examples to illustrate how closely we work based on research and how closely we work on the idea to make all these things real for our users. So being able to use your own voice, so a voice that sounds like yourself, makes you attached so much closer to the device. So it's easier to accept the generated voice when it sounds like your own voice. And the fix tool is so energy and time saving. It's incredible.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Micah. We have some thoughts from Laura Lee about the size of the device, and just, the positioning, and when the device is at eye level, the fact that it could block your vision, especially when you're using Ability Drive. So just thinking about that and how well the device would do at the same position requirements, for example, lower or to the side, so that the user can still use it whilst driving. Are there any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I think this was specifically with eye gaze and the positioning around eye gaze. So if in our kind of enclosures, we have the cameras, I think, at an angle of 20 degrees, and that's been proven like through testing to be kind of the best angle. And what that means is typically, but it does depend on the camera and it depends on the user, typically kind of the more parallel the screen to the user's face, the better. It's quite a tricky science to get right, and sometimes there's not really a science behind it though, because depending on someone's eyes, depending on the user, depending on their positioning, it really is quite a tailored thing. And that's why, for example, we have positioning guides, which can be accessed through Grid, to really help get that positioning right. So that kind of the accuracy and the precision of the camera is as good as it can be for a user. So sometimes it can be a bit of trial and error to get that positioning like spot on. But there are tools available like the positioning guide, like making sure the distance is correct, like making sure the angle is okay, like making sure like the eye visibility in both eyes is good. And yeah, so that there's tools kind of to help with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think there is a certain tolerance to move it. You have this, imagine the funnel from the device to the user for the eye gaze, but it's just a certain tolerance.
Thank you. And just one final question, which is about price. So how much is the device with the camera attachment?
So I must admit, I don't have the exact camera price in my head, but the price for the GridPad 16 is exactly the same as for the GridPad 13. And this is because we didn't want to, so the people who need the bigger device, they should not be in a worse position than the people who can work with a smaller device. So one price for the ones who are fine with a smaller one and the ones with a bigger one. So equal pricing.
Thank you. I think we've gone through all of the questions. Unless anyone has anything. Oh, wait, I've just found another one within the Q&A. I'm curious, did Millie choose that particular voice? Was it only for the trial, or does she regularly use that voice? That's a really good question, because I actually went to visit Millie for the filming day, and that was my first reaction was, oh, she's using Graham's voice. That's interesting. And I spoke to her about it, and she said, I've always used Graham, and that's the voice I like. And she has tried other voices. She's tried she said she'd tried a few of the child voices, a few of the other female voices, but she always comes back to Graham. And I think that is just a really good demonstration of how every user is unique and has their own preferences. And that's the voice that she has an affinity with. So yeah, thank you, Steph, for that question. That's really perceptive of you there. I think that is all the questions. So thanks again for bearing with us at the beginning there. We do apologise for the slight technical issues, but we will share a recording. And if you have any feedback, please feel free to contact us. And yeah, thanks again for joining us and watching.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye.